Welcome. I'm John Paul Port, and I'm here with the June Virtual Doll Convention. And I'm really excited to be here, and I want to thank Rachel Hoffman for having such a great venue for people to be able to see some things they might not otherwise see. A lot of people can't make it to doll conventions or doll shows, and this is a great opportunity to share our collecting field with them. And it's exciting, and it brings us all a little bit closer together. The collector here is a little tied up right now and bound and gagged, but I wanted to show you her collection. She has a great eye, so I wanted to show you something I've followed for a very long time. I've known this collector for a very long time and her collection, and she's known for collecting original pieces, rarity, but above all, beautiful faces. And I've collected a lot of things over the years: bears, dolls, Steiff, and my mother before collected since 1957. And so we always loved that look, that special look in a bear's eyes that just drew you in and made you say, I'm going to take you home. And I'm going to pan around later so you can see some of these very special faces. But that's a really great component of this collection. So I've kind of limited myself to this room because there are thousands of pieces here and it would take us 6 years to get through them all. And I pulled a special selection here, a good grouping, to show you some of the rarities of them, the looks, the buttons, and then we'll do a quick-o change-o, and then I'm going to bring you some of the novelties that you are only going to be able to see, in very, very sophisticated collections because they're just not out there to be seen. So I might as well start, because this is going to go fast. There's never enough time to talk about teddy bears and dolls. So the first one I'm going to show you is a very, very unusual and rare teddy bear. And the reason he's unusual is in 1904, Steiff did a rod bear. And it was very hard, and it was jointed with rods and Excelsior, and it didn't go over really well because it wasn't cuddly for children. So Steiff the next year, in 1905, went the opposite direction, and they stuffed them with kapok, which is a natural fiber, mixed with the Excelsior, so they were very, very lightweight. After the elephant button, which was done between 1904 and the end of 1904, the blank button came into existence. The blank button was in the left ear, just like the elephant button, but it was done from 1905 to the end of 1906 when they switched to what we call the FF button. What I find so exciting about this is I've seen several of the blank buttons that are really, really, really tiny, and they're positioned very close to the head on the ear. And I just wanted to show you what that looks like, because I believe that they are the precursor to the large blank button, but they're very, very tiny and very close to the head. So I think a lot of people, they might think they don't have a button in their bear's ear, but you gotta look, because it could be in the folds of the fabric right next to the head. So I believe that that was a very early bear. I believe this is right after the rod bear. Another very special piece on this table, which I'm really excited about because I love animals on wheels, and I really love to find things with the original elephant button, is this lamb. This lamb has got like a woolly material. It's very, very exciting and very soft, and it has an elephant button. It's on the iron wheels, and I'm going to show you the elephant button because it's also positioned very, very close to the head. You might miss it. So here it is. It's kind of hard to see, but it's very close to the head in the ear, and that's the rare elephant button with the raised trunk. And I've seen, a lot of elephant buttons in rod bears and rod animals, but to find one on wheels like this with an elephant button, I found was really exciting. I was really excited, and I think this is one that I'm going to pack in the boxes before she escapes from the closet. Next up, I want to show you another really sweet animal on wheels. This is a terrier from about 1914, 1915. And one thing that I think is very exciting, he's got the FF button, which came after the blank button, and he's got the white stock tag. I don't know if you can see that. I'm getting my exercise by going back and forth here. That's good. There's the white stock tag. It's got the original identification number and the white stock tag. And he's really, really sweet with his wheels and his great face.
Show it again.
I'm going to show you right there again. See if you can see the number. He's really special. And he's got his original collar. And so he was one that I pulled down because he just, with his originality, and he was really sweet. Another thing that I want to show you here, which I really thought was so sweet and special, and I'm going to be jumping around time periods and items because, you know, I didn't do it chronologically. This little elephant is really, really sweet. When I saw him, I just grabbed him up immediately. He's got the felt saddle on him, and somebody in pins has spelled out the name Loke, which is L-O-K-E with the umlaut over the O. So I think that was probably done by the original owner, and it was a fun thing, those pins, and he's a pin cushion, and he's very early stiff. I feel he was probably blank button. He's missing his button, but you can see where the two little prongs went in. And he's just wonderful. I don't know if you can see him. I want to get him close to the camera. It says L-O-K-I in pins, which is fun. And he's just the sweetest little felt guy. He's been loved by the moths, but in something this rare and wonderful, who cares? Another really great piece and the companion are the little bald bunny and bald duck. These were done in the late 30s, and they were just the incredible little novelties. I'm always surprised when things like this even survived. Because let's face it, they were kids' toys. Kids played with them, they shoved them in their mouth, they dragged them outside. To find them in this condition is really exciting to me. And you just don't see them very often. And these are in such beautiful condition. I'll bring them closer so you can see. The little bunny still has his FF underscore button, and the little pom-poms for his feet and tail, which are just really exciting. And the duck is adorable. He's still got his button on his feet, and he's just, they're really, really sweet. Another great bear that I wanted to bring down for people who like to collect accessories, not necessarily just bears. He is in his original sweater and Teddy B overalls. These sweaters were done in blue and white, red and white. They were created in 1907 by Mossbacher and Kahn, and they were made to go on your stuffed bears or doll or whatever, and you could buy them. The Teddy B and Teddy G overalls were done in several different sizes, and I've also seen them in the midi, which is the sailor outfit with Teddy B and Teddy G. I've also seen the sweaters with Teddy B and Teddy G. So he's just really sweet. He's a 12-inch stiff. He's got his original little FF button. He's probably from around 1907, 1908. He has a side squeaker, so he's probably before 1908. And he's just so incredibly original. You can just see the little child that would have played with him. And a lot of times you see them in ads like this. I've got a postcard that shows all the little bears in their Teddy B and Teddy G overalls. And it's a great collecting. If you can find these clothes, they're hard to find, and it's a great coup to find them, and your bears really love to have them. So another couple little special items here. I love miniature pieces, and they go great with dolls and miniature teddy bears. First of all is the Stiff Lamb. He's probably from around 1907 to 1910, and he's the small size. And here he's tangled with his friend. And he is in beautiful condition. I love the woolly fabric and the felt nose, and he's got bead eyes, which were earlier. The bead eyes, especially even on the 3.5-inch stiffs, made them earlier. Can you see the little black beads? Later on, they would have been stick pins, black stick pins, but he's got the early black bead eyes. Some people think they've been replaced, but they haven't been. They are original. He's got these great little wheels. And the sweet bell. He's just wonderful. I think I'm going to take him too. And then next to him is this fantastic little Steiff-Rattle. Think about that. This was a child's toy. And you know how children play with their toys. We are so lucky that he survived. This fabric, a lot of times you will find it and the hair will be all off. It really did not last. I have several in my collection that just have the backing material left because this came off. I'm sure kids pulled it off or it just disintegrated, but look at this treasure. He's absolutely exciting. They made these as early as pre-button, these little lambs, and all the way up until about 1920. Another couple special pieces, and I don't think I'm even going to bother to sit down, is Fluffy on her pillow. This is a Steiff Fluffy, probably from around 1927, 1928. She still has her FF button and her beautiful green glass eyes. These novelties are extremely rare and very hard to find in good condition. A lot of times you see the cats, they've been cut off at the pillows. I found a couple pillows with no animals on them, so we're really, really fortunate that these pieces are together still. I just think they're very, very sweet. And she was originally a beautiful tipped, maybe even lavender, and with the pink pillow. These Fluffies came in several different tippings. They came in purple tipped, pink tipped, blue tipped, green tipped even. And they're just absolutely sweet and so, so collectible. And along with that is one of my favorite animals in the entire Steiff line. It's Molly the dog. I have probably, I don't even want to tell you how many in my collection because I'm addicted to Molly the dog. What makes this one very special, he's probably from the late 20s. He's in a beautiful green tipped color. So I wanted to show that incredibly rare color on Molly. They again came in orange tipped and green and purple, and I've seen blue. And then they did also the brown tip, the plain brown tip. But this is just a sweet, sweet example. Another great novelty that is so rare, I've only seen a handful of these in all my years, is the Roly-Doly. The Steiff Roly-Doly was done in 1909, and he's got his original FF button. You can see there, his jointed head, and he's even got the felt circle on the bottom. But these are just so rare, such an honor to even just be able to hold one and share it with you. It's really exciting to me. He's got a phenomenal face. And these really did not last. I've seen them before. They've lost their hair, they've lost appendages. So nice to find one in such great condition. And now I'm going to sit down a little bit here and show you another great, great item. This again is Molly, my favorite dog. I love Molly's. And what makes this special, he was done in about 1929, 1931. And when you squeeze him, he plays music. Steiff did a line of the musical squeeze toys, and Molly was one of them. And very rare, you don't see these very often, especially the musical inserts are broken or they don't work so well. And he has his original FF button under his ear, and he's the standing Molly, and he's just extraordinary. I also pulled down this great Steiff horse. I love animals on wheels. And this one is really sweet because you see a lot of the Steiff horses, but most of them are felt. You see very few that have the mohair. So I wanted to show this example. He's got his original saddle, and he's got his original blanket, his embroidered blanket. And he's extraordinary. His mohair is this brilliant, brilliant cinnamony brown. And I love this size. The size is so extraordinary and great to collect because it can go on a shelf or a case. It's not too big. And he's got his great FF button. He was done probably around 1914. Another one around that same time period on the table is this great Record Peter. Record Peter was a monkey on wheels, and when you pulled him, his mechanism would make him go back and forth. What makes this one so fun to show, and what drew me to it, was the collar. He's got black body, and he's got the yarn ruff around his neck. This was also done in 1913 for the clown bears, which it's very difficult to even find them, and I've only seen a few. So to see this, they did the monkey at the same time period with the yarn ruff around his neck and the great black body, and on his wheels, and it's very hard to see even close up, Steiff is incised on the wood wheel. And I'm going to try and get closer to see if you can actually see that. It's so faint, it's really hard to see. I really don't know if you'll be able to see it. You kind of have to be in the right light, but it's incised Steiff on the wheels here. But that's just an extraordinary, extraordinary find. He's wonderful. I've seen several of them in brown felt and brown mohair. And they did them over a long period of time. I mean, these earlier ones with the plain wood wheels, he was done in 1913, but they also made them up as late as the 1950s. But this is a great early example with a rare, rare body. I also wanted to show you comparisons. When Steiff was making teddy bears, and they were invented in 1902 by Richard Steiff, he went to the Stuttgart Museum and he saw the real bears. We all know the story of Steiff and how they were invented. Ideal Toy and Novelty Company claims also in 1902 to have created a teddy bear and asked President Teddy Roosevelt if he would be okay with them naming the bear after him. The letter that they claim that they wrote to the president has never been found, and they said they did the bear after the Clifford Berryman cartoon. Well, that cartoon more than likely was not seen in New York in 1902 because it's not like today where we have social media and national newspapers. So I do believe that Steiff made bears later. So I think, Ideal, I feel the first bears that they did were around 1906, 1907. And excuse me, I'm gonna just tap my nose. That's terrible, but it's live. So I brought some examples that I found in her collection, which are really sweet. So around 1906, 1907, when we would have this guy, in America, there was a company called Horseman Toy Novelty. They did a line called Heckla Bear. Heckla Bears, according to the early advertisements, had the clear glass eyes and a red embroidered nose, vertical stitch nose. So they're very hard to find because they were only made for approximately a year and a half, maybe 2 years. What some people don't maybe understand is a lot of the early American bears are probably rarer than Steiff's. They were made over a short period of time. So this is a Heckla, and she has her wonderful, wonderful red yarn nose. I want to give you a close-up you can see. And her stitching on her paws is also the same red yarn. And then I want to show you her feet. Same red stitching. And a lot of the larger ones, sometimes you see cardboard in their foot pads. But she's a great example of that bear. And because they were made for such a short period of time, extremely rare and highly sought after. Now, another bear that gets mixed up with Ideal a lot of times is a bear called Havana, Havana, just like Cuba. So these are not Ideal. These are a toy company called the Havana Bear Company, and the way I identified them is I have some original catalog pictures of them, and it shows the red rust yarn on the nose and the feet, And they had short, stubby arms. Their arms were quite short and stubby, and their heads were very broad. A lot of times they're misidentified as ideal, but they are not. They're actually rarer than ideal because Havana Toy Company did not last for very long. And what I think was really great is I went past a case in the other room, and look what I found. This incredible 20-inch, 21-inch or more Havana with the short, stubby arms. Look at that. And with the baby. Just incredible to find these here. And you can see the short, stubby arms. Oh, and this one fell. And the red stitch nose. So you can see, a lot of people say, oh, because it has a red yarn nose, it has to be Hekla. No, that's not true. That's not true at all. A lot of these companies copied each other, got ideas from each other, or they bought in bulk and they used it. I have a great set of advertisements at my house, and I'll show that at a later video sometime. It's the same exact bear in the picture, but there's about 4 or 5 different toy companies advertising that bear. A lot of the bears that were made in the early days of America, 1903 to 1910, were unmarked, unnamed. They were given to jobbers, and they were sold to Wards, Sears, F.E.O. Schwartz. So a lot of them can't be identified. They're just wonderful early American bears, and I think they've got great place. So here is a wonderful early ideal. Ideal has a very characteristic look to its bears. Notice the triangular head. It goes wide and goes down to a point. Its paw pads are triangular to the point. You can see the point there. That's a typical ideal paw pad. Also, the tops of their toes a lot of times come to a point because they were rolled in and then sewed up the top, and that gave them that point. A lot of the early American bears have 5 claws. I don't know exactly when this stopped. There's controversy when they stopped using 5 claws, but it was money-saving efforts, time-saving efforts. So 5 claws disappeared probably around 1908, 1909, because they had to churn these out. Teddy bears were all the rage. By 1907, Steiff alone had sold 975 pieces. Mind you, there were hundreds and hundreds of manufacturers in America around that same time. So you can imagine millions and millions of teddy bears were being produced. They actually distressed the doll market, as when people wanted dolls, they now wanted the teddy bear. And I have an ad that says teddy bears are all the rage, and as far as I'm concerned, it never stopped. They're still, to me, all the rage. So this collector has more 8-inch Steiff bears than I've ever seen anywhere else. And it's really exciting to see them. Steiff did an 8-inch bear, and again, a lot of people, they don't realize that they are Steiff because they think, oh, they have to have paw pads. The very first bear they did paw pads on was the 10-inch. So this is the 8-inch Steiff bear. He has no foot pads. I mean, he has foot pads, but he has no paw pads. So that is original, and it is a Steiff. And a lot of times it's misidentified as something else because they don't realize that Steiff had no paw pads for the 8-inch bear. There was a 7-inch bear that had no foot pads and no paw pads, which we have one in this collection that I can show you. Let's see if I can get the camera to follow me, and I'm going to open one of these stuffed cupboards and show you. This is the Steiff 7-inch. No foot pads, no paw pads. And he's also Steiff. He's glorious. This bear is just the most beautiful white. He's got his original button. I love him. So this size bear, I've seen several with blank buttons. They were done very early, 1905, 1906. Some people say they weren't done until about 1908, but I've seen too many with blank buttons, so I do believe they were earlier. Notice he is wearing the original little teddy sweater set in that size. It's just wonderful to see. I'm really excited about that. Another bear that I pulled out, which I was super excited to see, was Willi Weissmuller. This bear was done in the 1930s in Germany. You do not see them very often. They're really, really hard to find. And he is just so sweet, and he's 8 inches, and I just am so excited to see him. They weren't in America very much. You don't see them here very often. When I go to Germany, I've seen a few in the larger size, but this is actually the smallest size I've ever seen. And so I wanted to pull him to show you. Willi Weissmuller used the glass eyes. A lot of times they may have been painted back, but the paint came out. And he's just really, really special. And he goes so great with the 8 inches. And here's another wonderful little bear. This is a little 8-inch Farnell. Look at that face. Farnell's British, pre-Mary thought. This guy's probably, I'd say, probably from the teens, maybe 20s, and he's extraordinary. Look at that size. Look at that. He's so, I get so excited because some of these I've never even had a chance to hold or look at, so it's always fun to bring them to you. Another wonderful early American bear company was called the Harmon Manufacturing Company. I've got early ads for Harmon teddy bears. This was called the Teddy Shopper. This, you can imagine the little girl going down Madison Avenue with her little teddy bear purse with her coins in it, how elegant she thought she was. And if you can see here, I'm just going to open it up, because I've seen this at a few different sizes. This is a sweet small size. You can see the inside, it's leather lined. And that was Harmon, H-A-R-M-A-N. And they did bears from about 1907 to 1910, and they also disappeared. A lot of the early American teddy bear companies disappeared by 1910. There was an economic downturn. Manufacturing was difficult, and when Teddy Roosevelt was out of office, really the emphasis wasn't on teddy bears anymore. When Taft came into office, they tried to do Billy Possum. It didn't take over as well as the teddy bear. So by 1908, teddy bears, were losing their popularity. I'm going to show you another great set of bears. This collection has some great variety in it. This is a rare musical bear made by Kohler and Rosenfeld. A lot of people call them Helvetic. They are not Helvetic. That's because on the music boxes, sometimes was stamped Helvetia, which means Swiss. And the music boxes, the squeezed music boxes, were actually from Switzerland, and they were inserted into these bears. The ads for these bears placed them around the 20s, 1925 to about 1930. And it was Kohler and Rosenfeld. And here's the red one. Also, Jopi, Joseph Petermann in Germany, also did musical bears and beautiful colors. And this is an early one, which is just so beautiful. And listen to that. It's just melodic. A lot of the mechanisms have gotten Excelsior stuck in them, or they give up the ghost. These are just beautifully done. And look at that mohair and that sweet face. Jopi did make bears as late as the 1950s, musical bears. I'm going to grab you. And so these are just really wonderful. He was done in the 1950s, and listen to him. And he's got this incredible tipped pink mohair. They came in several different colors. I've seen them in green, purple, blue, charcoal black of all things, black on white, which is really, really exciting. And they're just very special. What a great way to collect. But he was done in the 50s. Actually, I've got an original catalog page that shows this line of musical bears as late as the 1950s. Another novelty on the table that I want to show you is this great Steiff ball. And now, Steiff balls are wonderful, and we've seen them, but this guy is early. You see a lot of them from the 1950s, the gymnastics ball. But this one has the original tag right here, and it says 1936, which I think is really, really wonderful. So I wanted to share that with you. Isn't that wonderful? And it says moth proof. This is probably a sample from the factory or a store. So that I thought was just really extraordinary to find and to show you. Let's see if I'm missing anybody. This guy. This guy is a 30-inch Steiff bear. And he is so glorious with his great collar of bells. He's from about 1907 maybe to about 1908, 1909. He's got a growler. The Tilt growler wasn't made until 1908, so I'd place him around 1909, 1910, and he's got his original button in his ear. Look at the size on this. These bears, when they were new, were expensive. Not everybody could afford these Steiff bears, especially in the larger sizes. So it's really fun when you get to see these great large bears in such great condition. Because, you know, the larger bears, the ankles, he almost was mine. The ankles would split, the arms would split, just due to the size and the weight. And play. Children did play with them. So I hope you enjoyed. Oh, and the other thing I want to show you on this table. See this wonderful teddy bear sweater? Well, look at this book. I found this in her bookcase. It's got the cover of the book shows the bear in the red sweater. Isn't that fun? It's a school primer notebook, and they wrote in there for school. I mean, what a great find. Also on this table, I'm seeing more here, okay, now that I'm getting up, is a great little 3.5-inch Steiff. He's got his original FF button and his tiny bead eyes. See, this shows him early. These bears were done first in 1908. He's got his tiny, tiny bead eyes. Look at that. And his FF underscored button. And he's got an exceptional sweet face. And to be honest, I have a few of these that I've seen. They're not so cute. So it's really fun when you get to see really cute ones. And then, also here, we have this great pom-pom mouse. Look at this with his original slippers. And he's got his button. He's from probably 1936 or so, maybe to the early 40s, 1943, somewhere around there. Look at this. It's just exquisite. I want this too, so this is just stunning. And then this monkey. I love monkeys. I collect monkeys in my collection. This is an early Steiff monkey. He's got his FF underscored button. He's probably from about, I'd say 1912, maybe 1914, and he's in white, which is so exciting. It's such a great color. You see them in brown, like the one that's hanging behind my table over there, but this guy's white. And look at the detail in his felt, the dimension, which is just so fun, and his early shoe button eyes. I hope this is getting you excited about going out there and finding some Steiff and some early American bears and British bears, because there's nothing like collecting teddy bears. This I found in one of her cases, and it really is fun since we're talking about musical bears. It's a German novelty, I'd say probably from the teens, maybe even up to 1920. And at home I've got a rabbit that does this, but I've never seen the bear in his original outfit with the green and the red and the original leatherette collar. It's just fabulous. So I think I'm going to sit him there. I think I've showed you everything on this table. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick changeo, and I'm going to bring you some of the most rare, incredible novelties that are on the that are out there, and delight you with those. And thank you for joining me, and I'll be right back, and you won't want to miss it because some of these pieces are just once in a lifetime views. So thank you again, and I'll see you in a few minutes.